Hi, Aynsley.
Hi, Tony.
Thank you for agreeing to come on the Challenging University podcast.
My absolute pleasure.
Yes. For those people who are just listening, not watching, both got a team orange hoodie on. I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
B&Q all day
Yeah.
long.
Right. Damn it, you reveal my side hustle.
Oh,
So we know one another. We might get into that. Um, but I don't want to spoil you introducing yourself. So,
all
for the
right.
listeners today and the listeners to come, can you please share your full name and what it is that you do for a living?
My name is Aynsley Fry, and I am the owner of a business called Gecko Fitness, which in short is a health and fitness company which specializes in physiotherapy, sports medicine, and strength and conditioning. The sort of USP, if I'm going to use buzzwords early on in the talk, would be that is trying to sort of bring those things together under one roof. So everything health and fitness from, like I say, physio, rehabilitation, that is us basically.
Awesome. So now that you have introduced yourself, we met because my kids come to came to your strength and conditioning programs because
Absolutely.
someone had said to me, and I'd never really heard of the term, but somebody said to me, if you want to stop your kids getting injured and you want them to be strong for the sports that they do, they need to do this.
Absolutely.
And it works.
There we go.
Um, and then when we met, what struck me was we do live in quite a, what I always call it, a middle class bubble. And what struck me was we were chatting and you talked a bit about your background. And I thought it was really interesting and it deserved kind of to be shared. So,
Wow. There we go.
yeah. Um, so tell me, that's today, but well, two things. First thing is, what's the story behind the name Gecko? Why? Why Gecko?
We should have done that on the pre-screen because it's really not exciting and it's up to you. Short version would be I was on my own. I set the business up on my own and it had my name, so Aynsley Fry, and it needed a logo. I had a
Ah,
girlfriend at the time who, do you remember the old school like word clip art? Was it clip art?
yeah, yeah,
Really crappy animations. And I
yeah,
did the classic thing where I was bored of this. We'd been on
yeah,
it for a bit. And I said, oh, look, that's fine. She's like, it's just a lizard. I said, I don't care. I'm done. Just put that next to my name.
yeah,
Because we've gone through all the stereotypical, a set of dumbbells and a
yeah,
heart. There's
yeah,
that. So I just stuck this lizard, and everybody for about the next, I was probably on my own for a couple of years. What's with the lizard? What's with the lizard? And I said, oh, it's just my logo. Of
yeah,
course, when things grew up a little
yeah,
and we had to be a little bit more professional, and there were a few more of us, and I didn't want the tax man coming after me personally.
yeah.
I went for a legitimate business, but by which time I'd got attached to the lizard. It
Yeah.
became Gecko Fitness. I
Right.
did warn you about the
No,
story.
but that's good. I like that. That is good.
There you go.
Um, so that's today. When you were at school, so we'll go back
Yeah.
in time to your experiences of secondary school.
Yeah.
Can you sort of tell me what that was like? Tell me what you were interested in. Tell me how it was.
I really was only interested in the sport and the girls, and that
Yeah.
is my honest answer.
Yeah.
And I think again, steer me in other directions if need be. Don't panic on that. I'm not going to go on about the girls, but I no one really lit a spark under me at school.
Mm.
Um, and I probably fell into that category where I just sat in the middle. I wasn't really bad at school, but I certainly wasn't any good at sort of the academic side of things. And yeah, the sport got me,
Hmm.
which was lucky because, as you know, at state school you get a whole 1 hour to,
Yeah. A
really
whole
push
hour.
yourself on that.
Yeah.
So that was my school. I didn't really have a bad experience, but I didn't have a great experience. I didn't. yeah, I felt there were a lot of occasions where it just sort of fizzled away. Like I might have been
Mm,
quite interested to have pushed on it the maths or the English, but I did, yeah, I didn't really. No one sort of got hold of me at school. I think I was that kind
mm,
of student that if someone would have helped me a bit more,
mm.
I was interested, possibly deep down.
Yeah.
I just sort of drifted through and did okay. I mean, I actually did okay. What did I think I actually got one GCSE.
Hmm.
I think that was in design and realization,
Right.
which also me, I think I made a soap dish for my mum. So just to put that in perspective. So yeah, not great,
Right.
not a bad experience, but
Yeah.
nothing outstanding.
And so you said you're really interested in sport,
Yeah,
but at the time, was there a GCSE
no,
or equivalent for PE
no.
sport?
I'd have been over the moon if there was. So no, there's
Right.
nothing going on. There was a pretty uninspiring sort of PE team. No disrespect.
Mm.
Um, it just yeah. I mean, I loved it. I love sport, and like I said, 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
But flip that, that means, and it's predominantly the case in state school. I went outside of school. I got involved in clubs. I met new people, traveled
Yeah.
around. So yeah, swings and roundabouts.
And actually, you kind of answered the next question I was going to ask you. So where did you get your sport? Where were you kind of
So
fulfilling that
I
need?
can remember it now. I mean, my thing was football, and there was a small glimmer of hope that may have been my thing. Well, it was a big hope for me, but Theo
Mm.
Tigers would have
Yeah.
been where it started out. So my
Yeah.
dad will still remind me of, I think he's kept every journey he's driven me and how I still owe him petrol money for that. And like any, small person, I did do pretty well at that.
Yeah.
I ended up playing for Reading, just
Wow.
in a sort of what would now be classified as their sort of youth and academy program, but back
Yeah.
then it wasn't nowhere
Yeah.
near as glamorous.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my thought. And unfortunately, my mother was right when she said, "No, I'm not saying you won't be a footballer, but
Hmm.
just in case, anything else on the horizon. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's where I got my sport.
Okay. And just on that point of Reading Football Club, uh, how did that come to an end? When did you realise that that
So
wasn't going to
again, unfortunately,
progress?
you realize you are old and things are different now. So sort of going back to front, now these academies are pretty well set up, and
Mm.
a lot of them will prep for educating kids, offering
Yeah.
them other routes if they get injured, etc., etc. But mine was old school in that it ended by the coach coming up to me at the end of the season saying,
Mm.
"You've had a really good season. It's been really great, but we can't offer you any more. So all the best."
Wow. Good
So it's just,
luck.
yeah, I remember sort of
Wow.
driving home thinking, right, great. And I don't think I told my mum or dad for like weeks and weeks that I wasn't.
No.
I think I probably still pretended I was going training and stuff. It was quite a sort of. I did think that was
Mm.
going to be it for me, but
How
there we
old
go.
were you at the time?
That would have been. We're now sort of. I'm yeah, 18, 17, 18.
Okay. And that's I mean that's pretty devastating. And my son will kill me for sharing
Yeah,
this,
no, no,
but
it is.
I remember being in the car with my son um, when he realised he was never, and he hasn't even had a sniff of football to that level.
Yeah,
But now that clubs today have academy proper, and
yeah,
then they have the sort of one that parents have to pay through the nose for, like in the community, and
yeah,
he'd been doing that, and we were in the car. And he said, "I've realised I'm never going to be and he was so upset. And
yeah,
I think it kind of brought home to me when you have that dream,
yeah,
just how much of it's a real
yeah,
emotional,
yeah.
huge thing.
No, definitely. I then had possibly one of the most significant impacts on my life was I found boxing.
Ah, okay.
And I mean, we can fill the rest of the podcast with cliches here, but I went from a team environment
Mm,
where a lot of politics, there were a lot of people in your position that weren't
mm,
necessarily better than you, but they maybe had influential parents, or there was
Mm.
lots of things where you thought, really, am I not playing today, or is he in my position, or
Yeah.
lots of and a team environment. You're relying on 10 other people
Yeah.
to make you look good sometimes. If someone doesn't give you the ball, or
Yeah.
anyway, so I come across boxing, um, which I initially went for something different to do, just for fitness. I had
Yeah.
no thought of doing it or being it, but I was absolutely hooked on this solo journey.
Mm.
You had the support of your coach, but it was you.
Mm-hmm.
You had to do the training. You had to, follow the diet. And then it just gripped me and gripped me and gripped me. And then a voice in the back of my head was like, I wonder if I could actually fight. I wonder.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a fight and watching a friend and thinking how the focus was on one person now, and the
Mm.
actual courage to sort of step through a set of ropes, sorry.
Mm.
Have all your friends and family watch you. I mean, the
Mm.
embarrassment of losing. I mean, I lost my first fight, and I'll never forget it, in that I was absolutely awful. This guy absolutely battered me.
Yeah.
And I remember
Actually.
getting so many accolades from friends, other boxers,
Mm.
uh, like, well done tonight. And I was like, this is crazy. If this was a game of football,
Yeah.
you'd have been substituted, you'd have been dropped for for the season. And
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, I'm not gonna go over it. It was a real change to me, because you were totally responsible. Um, you couldn't hide in that ring. You can't hide
Mm.
behind 10 other players. You can't say, oh, it was the referee. The
Yeah.
pitch was rubbish. The wind was
Yeah.
blowing. No one gave me the ball. And I
Yeah.
just learned a lot from that boxing, again, it's cliche, but you cut corners in
Yeah.
boxing. It's
Yeah.
You're good. And I think was a real thing for me.
And how far did you take your boxing?
So I represented Thames Valley, had quite a few fights for them. And then again, we'll sort of link this in a bit later, maybe with some of your questions. But I
Mm.
actually, when I finally did go to university,
Yeah.
was the first person to represent Oxford Brookes University in a boxing competition. They'd
Oh,
never had anyone do it up until me,
yeah.
which is
Right.
quite funny at the time, because I entered what was the sort of British University Championships, which is actually quite a big deal. I thought
Is it still going?
this massive. And
Ah,
I
right.
was actually naive to the thought that I thought it would just be me, nice, tough, council kid, and I'll go and beat up a Harry Potter from another university, and I'll win a massive trophy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that at all. It was absolutely ram-packed with very, very, very tough,
Uh,
hungry students, and it's a massive competition now.
wow. I never knew that,
So
and I
there you
wouldn't
go.
have guessed it.
I got to the
Oh,
semi-finals of that, and then got
wow.
beat by the guy who won it. So yeah, but there we go.
Wow. Oh, well, that's interesting. Um, when you were kind of pursuing your sporting interests, did you have to work at the same time?
Yeah, so I again, without boring anyway, I sort of left Reading, and I did pick up the football again, sort of what they call semi-professional.
Yeah.
So I was sort of working and training, and I just got really put off with the football sort of side of it. And like I said, I
Mm.
fell into the boxing. I really enjoyed that kind of solo. Boxing clubs
Mm.
are very, it's a stereotypical thing to say, but they're normally run by very, very strong,
Mm.
male father figure kind of people.
Mm.
And I just liked it. I love the people watching. I love the characters. But yeah, I was working as well, but
Mm.
so is everyone else in that environment, and
Mm.
it just, yeah, it was, yeah, it's a tough thing to do, but it kind
Mm.
of, it works.
And so, just quickly, what were you doing? What kind of work were you doing?
So I was doing commercial cleaning,
Yeah.
which meant that on a Friday and a Saturday night, I would be inside. offices in a busy town, watching
Yeah.
everybody else walk
Yeah.
around having a great time whilst I was putting a Henry Hoover around. If I was
Yeah.
lucky, you might get the odd bit of interaction because someone would bang on the glass
Yeah.
and call
Hey.
you a wanker or something. But yeah, I was doing that as a job. I worked in a local pub.
Yeah.
And then in amongst all that, I did get a job actually in our very own local sports centre.
Right.
And whilst I would like to say that involved me, being in the gym and being one of these modern day personal trainers, it actually involved me setting up badminton nets,
Right.
putting out the indoor bowling mat for the gentlemen on a Friday night.
Yeah.
If I was lucky, they'd be a member short, so I learned how to play indoor bowls.
Right.
And to
Wow.
tell you how old I am and when that was, one of the gentlemen, I'll never forget it, would smoke a pipe during the indoor bowl session.
What? Okay. Yeah, but you're younger than me, so that's interesting.
And my job with him was to just open up the fire exit so it doesn't smell. But yeah,
Good
different
grit.
times,
You
good
wouldn't
times.
get away with that now.
No,
Okay. So football, boxing. You got to say you had the buffing machine as well. Surely, if you're doing commercial cleaning, you must have had to go on the buffer.
you did, but yeah, it was very that was towards the end of the career.
Specialist work.
You just didn't jump on a buffer, Tony.
I remember people using it like a bucking bronco. Terrifying. Um, how do you go from that to, as you mentioned, Oxford Brookes? You've got a GCSE. What gets you from
What
there
what
to,
gets me is going to Newbury College, so a
yeah,
local college, and participating in a BTEC course
yeah,
in what I think was leisure studies.
yeah,
And it wasn't that the course was anything groundbreaking, but for the first time, I was being taught, shall we say,
yeah,
by in a sort of adult environment. I was being talked to like I was an adult and
yeah,
having conversations with people. It wasn't a teacher student sort of
yeah,
relationship. And the guy running the course at the time had been I think he was in the team GB judo, and we just had things to talk about, and
yeah.
he inspired me a little bit, and I sort of probably got that first go at learning and enjoying studying. I was coming
Yeah,
home with a topic and a book, and my
mm,
mum saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've got to do this project." And okay, but it
yeah,
interests me. It's about, and I always had an interest in fitness, obviously the football and then the boxing, and I was always
mm,
into, how can you get, faster, and it's a natural young male thing. How can I get a bit bigger, and what should I be eating? But I was really
mm,
interested in it, and no internet, so you were relying on
mm,
other people to talk to. How had they done it?
mm,
Books, libraries, magazines, and yeah, that was the start when I sort
mm.
of realized actually there's a thirst for knowledge in most people if you can find out what it is you want to know, I guess.
Yeah. And how how many years were you at is that a couple of years to do
No, it's
the
just
BTEC?
it's a year.
Yeah,
That gave that also gave me I'm trying to think back, but it gave me some very basic vocational things. And I think one
hmm,
of those was a very basic sort of gym instructor qualification.
yeah,
Now I find myself in a couple of local gyms being exactly that, which is a gym instructor.
yeah,
And I don't know if it links with the chat today, but and I had this conversation earlier with someone about
mm.
what they thought was wrong with the modern personal trainer. And
Oh,
I said the trouble with the modern personal trainer is that the course it's such big business now
yeah,
that the modern personal trainer, and I sound like the modern personal trainer, but the courses have been so watered down.
mm,
I mean, you can become a qualified personal trainer now online
mm,
in weeks. So there's no
right,
interaction. There's no I can and people. weekly will email and message me to say, I want to be a personal trainer. Can you recommend the quickest way of me doing this? And
Right.
do I have to do X, Y, and Z? And it was the total opposite back then, in that you had this
Mm,
vocational qualification, working in a gym as a gym instructor,
mm,
just being on the shop floor
mm.
was actually quite a prestigious role.
Yeah.
Whereas now people don't want that. They don't want, I'm not working just, I want to be the main man. I've got 10,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Most of I spend my life taking pictures of myself without my shirt on. I need to, I'm way above that.
Yeah.
I want to skip past some actual, vocational training.
Yeah.
I just want to cut straight to me launching. What if someone wants to be a PT now? The first thing that's probably going through their mind is setting up a social media presence.
Yeah.
Whereas I got quite hooked on that journey of, oh, basic course. Oh,
Mm.
there's another course
Yeah.
after this. I went from there to doing a diploma that was
Hmm.
run by a company, but it was funded by the government. And it was 12-week residential.
Oh, right. Wow.
And to put things in perspective, like I said, you can become a PT now online
Mm.
in weeks.
Yeah.
The guy running my 12-week personal training diploma
Hmm.
um, is now head of sports medicine for England Football Club.
Wow.
So it was a real thing. And when
Yeah.
I got that qualification, again, I'm being genuine here. There, if you remember the yellow pages,
Yeah, of course I do.
let's keep
Jeff Capes
throwing
used
in
to rip
these
them in
things that
half.
no one will know what we're on about. Um,
Hang
if
on,
you
I
went to
got
the
something.
yellow pages, have you got one?
Well, I've got an encyclopedia here,
Yeah,
which is
that
about the size of the yellow
yeah,
pages.
so imagine opening that and going to P
Yeah.
for personal trainers.
Yeah.
I swear to you, it was just me in it
Wow.
and a girl in Basingstoke.
Right.
And I think the only other person who had a personal trainer was Madonna.
Yeah.
But no one was doing it.
Yeah.
But it was a real thing. Now it's not a thing.
And how does that 12-week residential lead you to going to Oxford Brookes? Where's the connecting
So I'm
point?
I'm I'm on a roll now in the sort of part of my brain that's stagnant throughout my
Yeah.
whole school journey. And
Yeah.
although I do feel like I'm somebody now, I've
Yeah.
got a diploma,
Yeah.
I've got something it's in a frame.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
Yeah.
not mess about here. It's in a frame. And I'm out there and I'm now doing my own thing. I've got some clients.
Yeah.
I am sort of becoming a bit of a thing now,
Mm.
in West Berkshire. I'm gathering momentum here. But I'm old school at this point. I'm going around people's houses and doing
Yeah.
training as well. But I'm now entering the world of people with electric gates. I'm earning some money now. So
Yeah. Great.
I've got a bit of a spark in that I'm fascinated by the subject
Yeah.
and I'm actually making some cash.
Yeah.
And let's not brush over that point, is that again, commercial cleaner,
Yeah.
bits and pieces. I was, we didn't have any money. We didn't come from money. So when I started to get my own money, it was
Yeah.
quite liberating. I could feel this sort of energy. I
Yeah.
wasn't shy of making money.
Yeah.
But I then had a bit of a thing where I came across a physio, and I think I'd referred one of my clients to her,
Mm.
and she wrote me this letter back, and it was really belittling. Like, she deliberately used, and I'll be honest, she used terminology and language that I didn't understand.
Right. Wow.
She questioned, that I shouldn't, this person must see her and not me, and I must be really careful with all these extras. So again, keep fast forwarding, and I'm now in the world of physiotherapy and sports medicine,
Mm.
I have these degrees, and I'd never write a letter like that to anybody.
No.
You do the total opposite. You make it digestible, and anyway, but as rude and horrible as that was, it made me think, right, I'm not actually the man with this
Mm.
diploma, even though it is in a frame.
Yeah.
And there's more. There's more,
Yeah.
there's more, there's more. And
Yeah.
I got offered a place at University of East London doing a physio degree.
Ah,
But here we go, just for fun for the podcast. I've got a real issue with hospitals, real issues. Like if I see a bucket of wee or someone being sick, I'll go to pieces. So a lot of
oh,
the placement with the physio degree is you obviously got to be in these hospitals. And I thought, oh God, that's not for me. I don't know. And then a friend of mine said, why don't you do osteopathy degree? Because
yeah,
it's the same thing, but there's no hospital environment. I mean, the difference between a physio and an osteopath is the physios do their placements in hospital, and the
right.
osteopaths do all their placements within their own sort of, the universities have private clinics.
Ah,
The other thing was the osteopathy degree at Oxford Brookes at the time was revolutionary in that it was part-time over 5 years
right.
during the weekends.
Oh,
So
yeah. And
I
you didn't care about your weekends by the sounds of it.
didn't
You
care
were
about
always
the
doing other
weekends
stuff
and
on a
I was
Friday night.
making cash. So I've gone, right, cash through the week,
Yeah,
electric gates,
yeah.
weekends, degree. And that was me,
Wow.
Oxford, and that's how it kicked off. So it was 5 years,
Yeah,
1,500 unpaid clinic hours, which I
yeah,
still begrudge that.
yeah,
And then from there I went and did a master's at Gloucester University,
yeah.
and that was in strength and conditioning and rehabilitation.
And I mean, so strength and conditioning, when I came across
Yeah.
Gecko, was new to me,
Yep.
but given you studied it a little while ago, it's not a new concept. When did that come into kind of?
It's a really good question, and it's the same question that I was discussing the personal training
Mm,
thing with earlier. It probably came to light, the term came to light in the early sort of 2000s,
yeah.
2001, 2002. And the thing where it came about was high performance teams and sports
Mm,
were recognizing that to make an athlete bigger, faster, stronger,
mm.
there was a science to this, and
Ah.
you actually required somebody with a skill set that
Mm-hmm,
understood all those underpinning key markers.
mm-hmm,
And it started to become clear that a man or a woman dressed in lycra with a
mm-hmm.
whistle, there was a bit more to it than that.
Yeah,
And that's where you now see a little bit of frustration where people say, oh yeah, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. No, you're not. There's an
mm,
actually accredited qualification now. There's a degree in
yeah.
it, there's a master's in it. And I don't know if there's a
Mm,
link here, but that became important to me in the, and I think maybe we've touched, or I've read some of your posts and your podcast before, how important is a qualification and degree, and can you be a really good strength and conditioning coach without having a degree in it and a master's in
mm,
it? I think you can.
mm-hmm,
Could you be a physio without doing the degree? I think you probably could.
mm,
However, only if you've got the underpinnings and and the understanding so it's a really thin line because
mm,
and it's an interesting conversation because the flip side of that is you can meet somebody
mm.
with a master's in physiotherapy, a master's in strength conditioning, and yet I'd let them nowhere near my business because they just don't
Yeah,
have that empathy, they don't have that understanding, they can't talk to people, they can't
yeah,
communicate.
yeah.
And if I got anything from, industrial cleaning and working in the
Mm,
pubs and working
mm,
on, building sites and being in the
mm.
boxing club and that's the importance of that gym instructor job. Guess what? You learn to talk to people.
Yeah.
Learn to be around people and different people.
And when you were at the Uni of Gloucester doing your masters, um, how was that degree course laid out? And were you um what was your sort of cohort of people on that course like? Were you similar experience age?
No, so it was funny in that I found the masters fascinating, and I think the
Mm.
cohort found me fascinating because I was the only one on the masters that was turning up in a
Yeah.
decent car and I had some money. But I was old,
Ah,
you know. I did my first degree when I was 30.
right. Okay.
Yeah, let's
And
put
you're
that into perspective.
yeah. And what? How old were you when you did your masters?
So I'd have been 35.
Okay. What were you driving?
So I literally had a BMW M3.
Get
And
in.
that's quite funny actually to see you pull up next to the lecturers in a car that's, you know, like that. It's funny thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that was
Please tell me
funny,
it was like bright orange or
no,
something.
it was silver. It did have a red leather interior though. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
let's be clear about that. The other thing that was funny is that doing the osteopathy degree was a bit more mixed because it was weekends. You did get a little bit more maturer
Yeah.
students, maybe
Yeah.
people that had families, bits and pieces. But I do remember that one as well, in that it was £5,000 a year.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it was a £25,000 degree. And I
Yeah.
remember going in to see the administration lady and
Mm.
paying for my whole year's worth of
Mm.
fees up front. And she said, "What are
Right.
you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'll pay for it now." And again, just for the podcast, that upbringing of you don't owe money.
Yeah.
She said, "No, no. If you want to take a loan," and I said, "No, no, no.
Yeah.
I just want it off my plate. Like I've got the,
Yeah.
I just want it done." And she
Yeah.
had to ring somebody. They'd never like this. I've got this guy in the office. He wants to pay. It's like you can't pay. Like, so it was quite funny. And I think I had a mindset as well of there would be lectures going on,
Yeah.
and I might be one or two others in there, and people say, "Why are you going? Let's go. Like, why are you going to that? It's rubbish." I was like, "Because I've paid for it.
Yeah.
I'm going." You know,
Yeah.
and that was different. I don't think, well, I didn't have the opportunity to do it. I didn't have a desire to do university after school because I wasn't motivated to do that. I wouldn't have had the
Yeah.
funds to do it. My parents wouldn't have had the funds to do it. And I think it'd have been
Mm.
lost on me. But I think going
Mm.
to university when you're paying for it out of your own
Yeah.
pocket and you've chosen a subject that you think, yeah, I'll have this.
Yeah.
It
And I
becomes
think,
something different.
and you're already living independently.
Absolutely.
You're, I've spoken to people, and I don't know why I never figured this out before, but I spoke to people that said when I went to uni to delay the inevitable, I didn't want to have to go and do
Yeah.
grown-up stuff.
Yeah.
And I think because I was, well, like you know, kind of living independently or at least,
Yeah.
paying my way
Yeah.
from a very young age, I was like, well, you're an adult when you're like 17, 18. What the hell are you on about? So I think, as you say, when the stakes are so different when it's coming out of your pocket and you've earned that
Yeah.
money to pay for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, when you did the masters, was that part-time as well?
It's a funny one in that it was part-time, but it was pretty punchy in terms of
Mm.
the workload, big research project. The masters, out of everything I've done, I'd say was the most useful for me in that I didn't learn anything new
Mm.
like skill wise,
Mm.
but it opened my eyes as to what it meant to have an understanding of science.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and I think the trouble with a degree of any nature is you're jumping through hoops, aren't you?
Mm.
This is the first year. Here's the aims and objectives, and at the end of that year, you're going to sit either a written exam or a practical exam or both. And
Mm.
this is the pass mark, and to pass, you need to do ABC. And we get ourselves geared up for that, and we
Yeah.
jump through the hoops, and ta-da!
Yeah.
I'm away. The masters is all about it was in this, questioning,
Mm.
oh, I think if I do X it equals Y. Does it really? Can you prove that? It's and
Mm.
it sort of set me up massively in that a lot of the things that I'd been taught, this is how you do this and you do it because it
Mm.
does that. And it's like, actually, do you know what? I don't think it does do that. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff I learned on an osteopathy degree. Bullshit. But I'm straight. It doesn't work. you rub this because it will stretch that and that will
Yeah.
relieve. It doesn't. No one's proven that. There's a
Ah,
load of that.
yeah.
Nutrition is the same. And
Yeah.
that is the big fallout. Is there's
Mm,
people. I've done 7 years worth of study,
yeah.
and my area of expertise, which is rehabilitation probably and pain management maybe, so confusing, and there's still so much we don't know.
Mm,
Yeah, it's okay because I can put on Instagram, and the PT guy who 4 weeks ago was working in Costa is a back pain specialist. Boom. But he's
yeah.
got 15,000 followers. So Mrs.
Yeah.
Smith is going to go and pay him, 60 quid to have a go at her back.
Yeah.
What kills us. That's what causes the frustration. I don't have an issue with someone being an expert in something or being in a field and
Mm,
not having a vocational university back, but you've got to have you've got to get the skills from somewhere.
yeah.
And I think it's that balance of you've got to have some sort of guidelines, parameters. At the
Mm,
end of the day, the reason you need a degree to be a physio or an osteo, so you're safe to practice.
yeah.
Even there are bad ones. There's really bad average physios out there and osteopaths, but
Mm,
9 out of 10 of them should at least be safe. They
yeah.
should at least know that if you go to them this afternoon and you've got a raging headache, that they've got enough training to go, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to refer you to the GP.
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for.
And something you said kind of it sparked a thought in me in that if today, so within today's school system, and you've got very young children,
Yeah,
but if you said, I want to go and get an osteopathy degree, I would imagine that you would be told, well, you need to have chemistry, physics, biology.
100%.
So I wonder if so the route that you took, it's really interesting to me that you've gone on to have like science-based degrees when you didn't leave school
No.
with science GCSEs.
I mean, yeah, it's a very good question. And I said, yeah, because I think I said I wouldn't have gone to university because it wasn't for me. I wouldn't have gone to university because I wasn't clever enough to go. Oh, I didn't have the qualifications. They
Uh,
wouldn't have let me in. So
mm,
when I went, I had to go for an interview for the osteopathy.
mm,
And to be fair to them, two things happened. I may have slightly lied about my previous qualifications. I
okay.
don't think I put one GCSE excellent
Yeah.
soap dish for mum. I
Yeah.
may have stretched the truth slightly.
Yeah.
However, to be fair to them,
Mm,
I think this was at a time where they were looking that I don't know why, but the mature student was of slight interest to them.
yeah.
And I think they were actually quite interested in that I'd had a life by now. I'm
Yeah.
30 years old. I've got a business.
Yeah.
I've got a proper business, and
Yeah.
and I think they even said to me in the interview that you might be an asset here to some of the other students who haven't experienced. And so I think it went in my advantage, which was
Yeah.
kind of nice, I guess.
But you obviously had the aptitude and ability and understanding, knowledge, hunger, all of those things that made you, uh, uh, a great student and able to take that course and the right person to do it. So it's really interesting where you think about how you've got an education system that says we're going to sort you like this,
Hmm,
and if you don't jump this hoop, then you're out.
totally.
But actually, you had everything that was needed to sit and pass that degree course.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true, and there are moments of different reflections now, like you say, with young kids. Yeah, you think you're going to be pretty cool about it, and
mm,
whatever they want to do, but you do find yourself even now. Mine are 5 and 7, and
mm,
my 7-year-old daughter's pretty sharp in all aspects, and is she getting enough opportunity? That class looks a bit big she's in. You do find yourself, you
yeah,
know, thinking, is she getting enough? She's pretty sharp here. Is some, is she getting all the
Mm,
opportunity? So you find yourself having those sort of conversations in your head.
yeah.
Um,
And how did you go from, so I'm thinking electric gates, paying up front for a course that you don't have to, um, nice leather interior on the car. How do you go to having your own bricks and mortar?
yeah,
Because your gym,
yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
yeah, it's all right.
And it's been expanding. So how did that part of your kind of career story, life story come about?
I think it just I think it, again, sort of is it, I don't know if it's cliche or what, but that drive of being in an estate agent's on a Friday night pulling the hunger, but not
Mm,
actually begrudging that because I'm getting cash and I'm
mm,
getting some more and I just a bit the drive to just push on a little bit more.
mm,
Go to college, push on a bit more. There's another course out there, push on a bit more. I've
mm,
got 5 clients. Let's get 10 clients.
yeah.
Just that kind of the drive was there. And, without sort of growing up, working class, council house, no
Mm,
money. I always looked at people who had it and I never had a chip. I never begrudged that.
mm.
Just, well, I'd have a bit. I'll get some of that. I
Yeah,
never had a problem with someone having, oh, look at this house. I used to, oh, wow, where'd you get that car? Can I look in your
yeah,
house? Can I plow you? Can we come on your tennis court? I never hated these people.
no,
So I guess it was just, I rented a small building. It did really well. I wanted a bigger one,
mm,
and actually, if we get a second building, I can get a treatment room in there. So it's just me doing some treatments and then a little
mm,
space for a studio. Actually, if I got a bigger building, this could have 2 treatment rooms. And I'll get
mm,
another physio. And I think, and then that's sort of the next journey is you can't just grow. And this is where my success has to end. And we have to give credit to other people is that I'm
mm,
just super lucky that I'm surrounded by really good people
mm,
um, that share a similar set of ethics.
mm,
And that I come back to the qualifications in that I've got physios that are way smarter than me. They've got
mm.
too many degrees. It's almost like stop getting them now. You've made your point.
They're all in
Right?
frames,
Yeah,
all
you've
in
made your
frames.
point. But they've got the same compass. They want to come into work. They want to squeeze in that extra person who's really struggling.
Mm,
They're professional. That's where you grow.
mm,
This whole actually, if I get a bigger place and get more people, we'll make more money. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I've
mm,
seen those businesses crash and burn all over the place. So that the aim of where we are now was just, and the model was you go to the physio, they give you some exercises, you go to the gym, the guy in the gym
yeah,
has no idea what those exercises are. You go back to the physio and it gets a bit broken up or we are under one roof. That was the aim, is that you
yeah,
could come to the physio, he or she would say, look, you really need to strengthen your back.
mm,
She would literally, or he would walk you into the gym. An expert in the gym would be, that was the idea. That's how we ended up where we are today, is trying to put a lot of skill sets in one place.
mm. And I think something that really struck me when I got to know a bit about, what you do and how your business runs or who you serve is, you've got people that are professional athletes.
Yep.
Um, and then you've got, so, if you look at state school versus private school,
Yeah.
one of the big things about private school is access to facilities, and in particular, doing more than 1 hour of sport a
Yeah.
week.
Absolutely.
And I thought you had a really interesting perspective on what it can do if you play sport every single day, multiple times.
Yeah.
It'd just be nice, I guess, if you could share how you came to build out that part of what you do, specifically helping younger people.
Yeah. So the young athlete program came about probably sort of in conjunction with my master's, because part of my research was looking at young athlete injuries, so overuse
Mm,
injuries. primarily, and it's a fascinating subject. The growing athlete is a fascinating subject because they're not mini adults. They
Yeah.
they there are different things going on that separate them from being an adult, and the injuries and conditions they can pick up are different
Mm.
from an adult. So all that cliche stuff, you should be able to run around all day at your age. Honestly, it's not true, I'm afraid. I had a, that was what I liked about that is it was twofold. One, I had a genuine interest in it, and it did start to separate me a little bit from the crowd because it
Mm.
was specialist. I had done some specialist research and training in it, and it
Mm.
was a genuine thing that even your sort of cocky, Pete is going to say, "Oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I've got a 12-year-old knee that hurts. I don't know what's going on here."
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed that part of it, but it's fascinating to work with that range because they're so different. I mean, there's studies out there to show you can get 13-year-olds can vary as much as 5 years in maturation, in terms of their
Right.
physicality, their structure. It's just really interesting. It's an interesting sort of demographic. They bring something to the table as well,
Mm.
because as the young athlete program tends to run as a group. You
Mm.
get 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and you start sparking conversation. I like that side of it. And they keep you, they make you feel like you're not too old. You get
Yeah.
involved in all sorts of conversations, and you watch these kids, exercise. We talk about a lot, oh, exercise, how good it is for you. But if it's so good for us, like I say,
Mm.
why is it only 1 hour a week? You watch some
Yeah.
of these kids, they don't not just them developing mentally, I'm sorry, physically, but mentally. You
Mm.
get kids, oh, is it all right if my little Billy joins? And he's not very good at sport. He's a bit shy.
Mm.
A few weeks in, you see that. So it's not just about the young athlete program is maybe a misleading term because we get emails all the time saying, can my son or daughter come? They're not very sporty. Like the young
Mm.
athletes probably it's possibly not a good use of words because it's open to anybody.
Mm.
But you see the power of a little bit of structure, a little bit of
Mm.
physical activity, and a little bit of education. Again, we come back to the education point. These kids are encouraged to understand their bodies, not just
Mm.
right, that your program's up on the board, off you go.
Yeah.
Do 10 press-ups, do 10 squats. What exercise would you choose here? Why would you
Mm.
do that? You
Mm.
know, we've got 2 new kids tonight. Can you help them with the warm-up? All those bits I probably picked up on the way, you
Mm.
know, taking the boxing warm up,
Mm.
petrified to take the boxing warm up, as watching a 13-year-old take a warm up. But
Yeah.
they're learning these things, putting the kit away, cleaning the gym, keeping,
Yeah.
keeping it nice for others, not leaving your crap all over the place.
Yeah.
And then you build those relationships, don't you? It's not a parent,
Mm.
not a teacher, it's a coach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, we've lost that term, a coach. Coach is a clever, clever, clever people.
Yeah.
And again, look how the world's changed now. To be a professional manager in the Premiership, you have to have gone and done coaching qualifications. A professional footballer cannot manage a Premiership football club
Mm.
without the qualifications.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And it's important. But at the end of the day, these clever, clever coaches,
Mm.
your Jurgen Klopps at Liverpool, your Pep at Man City, these are clever people.
Yeah.
These are people managers.
Yeah.
These that say, and on a very minute scale, I'm not for 1 minute comparing myself to those people, but you've got an opportunity, yes, to strengthen a young individual, make sure they get less injuries, make sure
Mm.
all these growing conditions are reduced,
Mm.
but you've got an opportunity to, we've had kids that have come through the young athlete program and they've not been sporty, but they've gone off and done a sports science degree,
Mm.
and they've been motivated by actually, it's exercise and that group and having the
Mm.
right mentor, the right person. I'm not saying it's just something, I've got a team of these people, but it's really important. And
Mm.
the young athlete program, I think out of everything we do,
Mm.
there's just a bigger scope to make change. If you get an adult in for physio with a bad back,
Mm.
yeah, they will drop you a nice email and say, oh, wow, you worked wonders. I managed to get through my skiing holiday. I'll never contact you again. Thanks very much. That's nice. But you
Yeah.
can watch you can watch a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old suddenly, and that's the trouble with school, again, especially the state school, is your
Mm,
physical activity exposure requires you to like rugby,
mm,
football, hockey, netball.
yeah.
If you're not any good at those four things,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
The young athlete program is all right. So you can't kick a ball and you can't catch a cold.
Yeah.
Pretty strong, and you're developing all these new skills, these movement skills, motor skills. It's
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah. Love it. So the final question that I have for you is, I mean, what's next?
Um, you probably should have come in earlier with that one. In that, what you find yourself now with is, and it is a bit of a getting older thing, is what is next? Have you got the energy to sort of, do you want to grow some more? Do you want to? Sometimes you have dog walks and you're going to go for it. It's the next, another, maybe another building, maybe another site, maybe another,
Yeah.
and then other dog walks. It's like, do you know what? Do you remember when it was just me and I
Mm.
borrowed my nan's Golf and I drove around all these houses and I just pocketed the cash? And,
Yeah.
sometimes you wrestle back and forth with that.
Mm.
Definitely it's an ongoing hook for learning. I
Mm.
do talk myself out of this one, but maybe another master's or
Yeah.
uh, again, learning for the sake of learning, I think is a really good thing. That doesn't have
Mm.
to be a course. I waste so much money on Amazon on books and webinars, and webinars are great because they force you to go, but the books that turn up that I've never, but just that interest, I'm always interested. I think we're pretty solid where we are now, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. But I'm happy where I am, and I'm happy with the day to day.
Mm.
I couldn't work for anyone else.
No.
I've set this path. It's grown. I'm used to it. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And the thought of, I wake up week in, week out, I have no idea how much money we'll make from week to
Yeah.
week. And that's been the case since I started. But I
Yeah.
I I can live with that. It sort of
Yeah.
drives me along. Whereas other people, they wake up and they're getting their £55,000 a year and they know it's coming and
Yeah.
they've got their holidays. And I think we take these paths. I don't think they're right. I don't think they're wrong.
Mm.
But that was my one and I'm stuck with it now.
Well, I like it. I think it's good philosophy. I think no right or wrong path. We sort
No,
of make our own. It's been great to speak to you, Ainsley, and it's been a long
likewise.
time coming. So I'm so glad that we're finally able to do it.
Well, let's hope we don't get too much stick for the orange, and I hope it's been of use.
Cheers, Ainsley.
All right, take care. Have a good